The double life of a successful woman who secretly sells sex. When Yasuko Watanabe's body was discovered in an abandoned apartment, her life of office work in the morning, prostitution at night was exposed. Yasuko Watanabe was born in 1957 to a well-off family in Tokyo and studied economics at the prestigious Keio University. In 1980, Yasuko became one of 9 women recruited by the Tokyo Electric Power Company, TEPCO. She disliked the job because all female employees had to wear uniforms, while men did not. She also hated having to make tea for male colleagues and bosses, something that female employees in Japan, no matter how successful, were often required to do. However, Yasuko endured because the income was enough to support her widowed mother. The strange lifestyle of a successful woman. Yasuko's downfall seems to have stemmed from jealousy when a female rival was selected to attend the Harvard program, according to Shinichi Sano, a respected journalist and author. Sano's book about the murder, Tokyo Electric Power Co. office lady murder case, was a bestseller in 2000. A few years later, when the company temporarily transferred Yasuko to work at a government-funded policy research institute, she considered it a demotion. Yasuko wanted a more prestigious position at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or the Ministry of International Trade and Industry, Sano writes. However, a paper on changes in the household economy earned her acclaim at the institute. A promising senior economic researcher earning nearly $100,000 a year, Yasuko still worked nights at a hostess bar, where men paid high prices for women to flirt with them and pour them drinks. In 1989, Yasuko became a prostitute. Every day at 5 p.m., she took the subway from her workplace to Shibuya in Tokyo, earning about $250 at a high-end brokerage firm, and after deducting expenses, she received $150. Yasuko was 32 years old at the time, unable to ask for a higher price. According to a man who had been visiting her home for 2 years, Yasuko would often give speeches about Japan's economy and energy needs, then drink 3 cans of beer before completing the transaction. Yasuko told him she was proud to work at Tokyo Electric Power Company, but also confided that she had been pushed into prostitution after being abandoned by a married colleague. Yasuko plunged into the lowest form of prostitution. Even in the pouring rain and bitter cold, she drove regularly to fulfill her self-imposed quota of 4 customers per night. She would stand on the street and offer sex to anyone for as little as $20, even foreign workers, who were considered second-class citizens in Japan. A body in an abandoned room. On March 19, 1997, Yasuko's body was found in an empty apartment. She had been strangled. Yasuko's mother had reported her missing 10 days earlier. At the scene, police found 28 condoms, 4 for each day of the week, tucked into her purse. They also found Yasuko's detailed records of the men she had sex with, at least 88, including dates, times, and costs. One of the men on the list was an illegal immigrant from Nepal named Govinda Prasad Mainali, who lived nearby. Mainali volunteered to turn himself in to clear his name, even though he knew it could mean deportation. Mainali, who had a wife and 2 daughters, came to Japan in 1994 on a 3-month tourist visa. His goal was to learn Japanese so he could work as a tour guide for a relatively high salary when he returned home. Like thousands of other foreigners who came to Japan in search of higher wages, Mainali overstayed his visa. Working as a waiter at an Indian restaurant in Tokyo allowed him to send money to his wife and build a house in Kathmandu, the capital of Nepal. Mainali lived with 4 other Nepalese men in an apartment around the corner from Yasuko. Slim evidence. Police determined that a condom found in the toilet contained Mainali's semen. Controversially, police estimated she was killed on March 8, but Mainali claimed they last had sex in late February. Police arrested Mainali, charged her with illegal employment, but focused their questioning on the murder. The alleged motive was robbery. Mainali initially denied knowing Yasuko, which made police even more suspicious. He eventually admitted to having sex with her 3 times. Manali's lawyer claims 2 police officers interrogated Manali from morning to night for weeks, regularly kicking, punching, and pulling his hair to force him to confess. Manali refused to plead guilty, and nearly 2 months later, on the day a court found him guilty over visa issues, police formally arrested Manali for murder rather than deport him. But their evidence was flimsy. Another client, who had sex with Yasuko the night police believe she was killed, said he paid her about $400. The money was believed to have disappeared when police found Yasuko's body in the apartment with the door wide open. Police questioned Manali's Nepalese roommate, who was also in Japan illegally. He said Manali had paid off $1,500 in debt at the time of the murder, about $400 more than Manali could have had, according to prosecutors. Manali's lawyer claimed the roommate lied under police pressure. He was then deported to Nepal. On April 14, 2000, the Tokyo District Court ruled Manali innocent. However, the government refused to release him from prison while prosecutors appealed, something Manali's lawyer said was unprecedented for a Japanese person. Wrongfully imprisoned for 15 years. With no new evidence and no explanation other than Manali's assertion of guilt, the Tokyo High Court overturned the verdict and sentenced Manali to life in prison on appeal on December 22, 2000. Manali said, "I'm innocent. I did nothing wrong while in solitary confinement." Manali's lawyers said the appeals court refused to accept tests showing traces of Manali's semen were old, which the lawyers argued supported the trial court's conclusion. A hair belonging to Manali found near the body was accepted as evidence, but a hair belonging to someone else was not. Witness testimony about seeing several used condoms outside the apartment window was also not accepted. Foreigners working illegally in Japan have few rights before the courts. The situation is even worse for those from developing countries. The immigration authorities have 100% authority to decide their fate, said Manali's lawyer, Katsuhiko Tsukuda. The police did not have interpreters for multiple languages. Manali was provided with an Indian interpreter, who spoke Hindi, not Nepali. Nepalese officials attended the trial and visited Manali in prison, but did not comment on the verdict. A number of Japanese people formed a support group for Manali, regularly visiting and providing round-trip airfare for relatives from Nepal to visit. In 2005, Manali asked the Japanese justice system to retry the case, but it was only approved in 2012. A DNA test in July 2011 proved that several semen, blood, and saliva samples found on Yasuko's body did not belong to Manali. Manali's sentence was overturned in June 2012. The Tokyo High Court declared Manali innocent in November 2012, but instead of receiving an apology, Manali was deported to Nepal for overstaying her visa. "I was forced to spend 15 years in a horrible and painful prison despite being innocent. If it weren't for the DNA test, I would have died in prison," Manali said after the trial. In 2013, Manali was awarded 68 million yen in compensation for being wrongfully imprisoned for 15 years. Manali's sentence raised questions not only about Japan's justice system but also about the work of prosecutors, who play a leading role in criminal investigations, local media said. The case attracted attention in Japan because of its sensitive details. Yasuko's personal story sparked controversy over why she became a prostitute. Some women, like Yasuko, said that money was not the reason they sold themselves. They craved something else, something hard to describe. Some observers say single-career women struggle in Japan because they don't fit into a male-dominated work environment, nor do they fit into a traditional society that expects women to marry, have children and leave the workforce.